Greetings and salutations. The live stream will be starting soon. Back live after the holiday hiatus. It's the first live stream of the new year. Thanks for tuning in and joining. Greetings and salutations, dear audience and interwebs family. I am your humble and eccentric host, the Incorrigible MrZeppo, coming at you live, online, with the streaming. Welcome to the Zeppoverse. Thanks for tuning in. Brought to you by CTAG Studios, the totally imaginary production studio that exists only inside my mind. This is the world debut of the almost daily login live stream chat podcast talk show exclusively here on twitch.tv/MrZeppo. I am your host, the incorrigible MrZeppo, a longtime gamer, first-time game streamer, and host of the almost daily Zencast audio talk show style podcast listened to in 20 countries around the world. I have a passion for iPad gaming and a propensity for overkill. I'll be sharing my first impressions, praise, critique, ranking, and talk show style opinion regarding a wide range of games available on the iPad, with hopes and ambitions to bootstrap myself into other gaming platforms, as well as a wide array of other things. The music you're listening to right now is an original composition of digital electronic loopified audio assets mixed with love and care by my imaginary sidekick, the multi-timeline infamous animatronic DJ Z. This is one of his newest creations, Metric Song 1 Remix Live. Perfect take explorations beyond the rational. A live to digital tape performance by DJ Z for your entertainment. While we're at it, I humbly invite you to head on over to Solo.to/MrZeppo and leave that tab open for a little later or bookmark it, because I would love to humbly invite you to visit all of these different, that's the wrong thing. I want to do this one. Bam. I want to humbly invite you to visit all of these different web pages that display for your entertainment consumption all of the original online content that this crazy guy is creating just for you. And dear friends and listeners and fans, I need your help. I need your support. If you appreciate the craziness that comes out of my content creation, then I humbly beg you to please share this link. Let people know and help me get that reach going to build that broader audience. But as we were saying, this is the almost daily login, and I am your humble host, the incorrigible MrZeppo. If you caught any of the early presentations from last year, I apologize. They were all horrible. And I'm embarrassed that I did them in my robes, which I don't go out in public like that, right? This is how I dress when I go out in public. But I do sit around the house, especially on Sundays, and indulge in comfy robe wearing. But I bring them up because, as embarrassing as they may have been, they were sort of the dress rehearsal, the soft opening. It was me tinkering and figuring out all the different things about what I'm doing here with this. You can see all my socials above, and you can see the link to Solo.to/MrZeppo right there. It's an endless permanent reminder. But also shout out to Vern. I'm terrible at reading names sometimes, so I apologize. Vern 2020, my most recent follower, up to a grand total of 30 followers, for which I am deeply, deeply full of gratitude. Thank you so much to all 30 of you. I make it a point to read the list off and give a shout out to as many of my as often as possible to the list of folks that are supporting my little stream channel here on Twitch.tv. Also, shout out to everybody watching on other platforms. Let me get the let me pull up that list. Is it here? Where is it? Sorry. I'm still new to this. It's my first day, which is technically not true. Oh, that doesn't show me everybody of all time. Oh, silly. Where are the things? Actually, I guess I should go to my actual profile. So, shout out to everyone who's hit that follow button already. Your follow is deeply appreciated. And if you're new, checking this show out either live or there's the list, either live or in the not too distant future, please hit that follow button and come back around, as I will be dropping tons of videos here and lots of new content over there at all the other places I just told you to go check out. So shout out to all the followers of my channel, and forgive the awkward sightlines. Do I have this over here? No, I don't. VenVern22, Hunter _ Coven, Nancy Gox 2022, Plasma Burn 02, Rava, Jonay Coxville, Orbs Web, Rashomon 1245, I Dark Kill Official, Emerald Nerd 23, Ollie 0513, Illinois is real, or Illinois real, whichever. I'm not sure which is which. Ollie 0513. Oh, I read those two. Crazy Cyber 12, Jinxed, Sun Quachi, and Quachi Sun, although I don't see you on the list anymore. Quachi Sun, what happened? Burros 0, Tycon XZ, Splendor Nipple, Hilito Skomichims. Hilto Skomchims. I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. Mozikov, multiple V's. Zarte 23, Luis Rojas 242, Amazen, Gummy Bear, here for my friends, I'm I Spy, Skymoth _ Brody 2021, Silence 975, and Fogvagen. Thank you for the follow, dear friends. It is deeply appreciated. And of course, the moment you smash that follow button as a new follower, I'll be shouting out your name in a future episode. We're trying to reach a goal, of course, of 50 followers, right? The big 50, 50? No, 50, 50, whatever. You get it. I'm dyslexic and everything's backwards on the screen, so make fun of me all you want. We're trying to reach that 50 follower mark. When I say we, I mean me, myself, and I, because this show is brought to you exclusively by the three of us, me, myself, and I, and nobody else. So, right, what's going on with this show? What is this show about? I'm new to the whole jam. I've been tinkering, trying to figure things out, trying to sort out my setup, and here we are. If you are a longtime listener of the Almost Daily Zencast, you know that I am a strange, unusual, unorthodox, and radically unscripted content creator. I'm not reading off a teleprompter. I didn't stop to make notes this morning. I spent my time tripping out about music and the setup, making sure all the details were right. So you're either going to love this show or you're going to hate it. And that's fine. If you know me from social medias, what's up, social media friends? Thanks for tuning in. If you're not following me on Twitch and you have a Twitch account, come on down. I always follow back unless there's a limit. I don't know if there's a limit on Twitch. I've only got the 30 followers. If I haven't followed you back or added you as a friend, let me know. Drop me a direct message on Twitch, etc. So, I started to explain what the bloody hell this is all about, and then I got sidetracked. And I'm looking at the wrong screen now. Okay. We'll leave that open. So, friends, here we go. Boom. What were we talking about? I am the Incorrigible MrZeppo, otherwise known as RJ. 2 letters. Very simple name. But I am a content creator, an artist and craftsperson by skill and training, a professional theater nerd, for lack of a better term, because I was a bit of a jack of all trades when it came to performance arts and the technology stuff around it. I'm also inspiring novelist and artist and, hitherto not quite yet discovered podcast host. Although, shout out to everybody from the Almost Daily Zencast. There's a humble but yet slowly growing number of people listening to that show. It's been around for the last 5 years. If you're curious, check it out. My most recent episode is an interesting one. I kind of was surprised myself the way it turned out. And yeah, it's hot off the presses. You can catch it on Facebook. You can catch it on, are we on Pandora, DJ Zed? I think we're on Pandora. No, it's the other one. Spotify, iTunes, Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Android Podcast, and a bunch of other ones. And that content is actually separate and different from the content I'm going to be bringing you here on the live stream. Mostly because my brain works differently in the 2 modalities, and it's just different things come out. Also, this show is going to be, this talk show is going to focus more on like tech stuff and gaming, etc. And while the podcast over on sprecher.com/show/Zencast is more focused on a critical questioning of current events, political ideology, and transcendental spirituality. If that sounds cool to you, then please head on over to Solo.to/MrZeppo and figure out how you can go subscribe and listen to the show. If that sounds crazy insane to you, I drop the gauntlet at your feet of give it a 4-episode trial run challenge. Like, go check it out for a couple episodes. Okay, enough about that. Enough self-promotion about the other things. Oh, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. I got one more thing to talk about. Friends, as you know, the last 3 years have been a train wreck of dumpster fires piled on top of a sinking ship of chaos, right? And everybody's lives got disrupted. I understand that and respect that. I also understand and respect that you, as a viewer, as an audience, as a consumer, and as a charitable, giving human being in the world, have a lot of options for content that you can consume, and a lot of options for artists and causes and individuals or charitable groups that you can support with your disposable consumer money, right? I don't like disposable income because it refers to income, and then obviously it's all your income, but it's money that you're going to use to be a consumer in our consumerist society. Earmark that or put a pin in that in the imaginary corkboard. I think that's over here, right? The imaginary corkboard sits on that blank space of the wall. Well, that's why everything feels different. I used to have it angled like this. Boom. Okay. Now it feels more comfortable and familiar. The bloody hell were we just talking about? Put a pin on it on the corkboard. That is actually a motif both on the podcast and probably will be here on this show. So when I say put a pin on it, imagine that there's an imaginary corkboard that's hanging on this blank space of this wall right here. And on that corkboard, when we don't want to go down a long spiraling sidebar, we put that subject, we put it up on the board. And there's a little bit of like critical analysis homework for you as an audience member, which is hopefully going to keep this show and the other content I create sort of engaging in a new and interesting and unorthodox way. Your homework is to actually track the bullshit things I say, put a pin in it. They're not bullshit things. A lot of content, if we consider it a form of storytelling, a lot of storytelling is thought of as like a through line that's got to go from the beginning to middle to the end. Or jump around in an interesting flash forward, flash back kind of way. My content is more like a spider's web. It spirals in a way that might seem a little bit out of control, but boom, 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 boom. As you're spiraling, you're connecting dots until you get to a cool nexus. I'm not going to ruin anything by jumping right into the nexus of the intellectual thesis behind my online content performance artwork that I'm trying to launch here this year. But I am going to humbly invite you to support the projects involved. As I was saying, I know you've got a lot of options. And I know that many of you watching might not be in a position to give. That's fine. Like it should be a given, an understood, no need to fret about, no need to stress about. If you're not in a position to give, don't worry about it. I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at anybody else that's like, yeah, interesting, cool, and is also in a position to contribute and is interested by the idea of considering it an investment, because I need investors to bankroll this wild, interconnected clusterfuck of ideas that are stuck in my head and need to come out into the world. But okay, enough of that. I've been rambling for quite a bit. DJ Zed, my imaginary sidekick, which I think technically he sits over there in the corner. If this were the full fantasy reenactment, or what do you call it? The cosplay, the full-blown cosplay of the characters I'm imagining for this project, there would be a robot sitting over there with one of those fancy schmancy DJ table setups and his own set of webcams, and we'd be able to like cut back and forth and stuff, but no such luck. Instead, I just gotta awkwardly read the title of the track we're going to share with you next, which is Ergo Robots Must Dance, a Scratch Beats Volume 2 audio asset electronic digital loopified entertainment track for your butt to wiggle to. I hope it's good. I hope you like it. Currently, the way my setup is configured, I can't hear it. I can't monitor it. But I created them all, so in theory, I should have liked them before I threw them on the list, right? Okay, so if you are familiar already with the almost daily live stream variety gaming show, which, you know, the logo looks like that, And you've been, there's a picture of DJ Zed. That's why I opened this up. This is a early rough draft rendering of a concept rendering. I think that's what you call them, concept drawing. We already looked at that. We already looked at that. Oh, that's me again. What was I looking at over here? I don't know. Never mind. Yes, this is gonna be sometimes a little bit chaotic and a little bit rough around the edges, because as I like to disclaimer for folks on my podcast, this show is real, raw, and radically unscripted, and has as much to do with audience questions, concerns, comments, etc., than it's got to do with my opinion. But this is an opinion talk show podcast style thing, right? Because the world desperately needs more charismatic online alternative media hosts that go wildly viral, but it needs them to be less crazy. The world needs rooted, grounded, anchored, serious, thoughtful public discourse. And I'm not here to get famous or to be full of myself. I'm here for the public discourse. The serious, although humorous times, I hope, because if you don't have a sense of humor, right? How are you going to get through this madness? But public discourse is important, and we've been watering it down and kind of ruining it in the last 30, 40 years, especially since the advent of the internet. Because instead of emphasizing a public discourse that's about building consensus through the collaborative process of respectfully and thoughtfully, I shouldn't point, right? That's one of those things that you don't do. The politicians are always like, bah, bah, bah. What, my camera hand doesn't even fit in the shot. Thoughtfully building common ground, thoughtfully building consensus. We need public discourse because there's a shit ton, fuck a lot of us, and we all can't live off the grid in the mountains by a lake, avoiding everyone else. It wouldn't work, right? That would be unsustainable. At some level or another, the human species has to collaborate and organize and discuss important ideas, ridiculous ideas, outrageous ideas. We have to discuss and come to a community-wide understanding, or else we will literally get nowhere. And why is that important? Why is that my opinion? And why is that idea something I think is important enough to bring to the public discourse over and over again? Take a look around and see how the state of things today. The state of public discourse nowadays is less than civil, to put it plainly, right? It's like as if most of humanity has forgotten that it's okay to disagree. Now, I know that sometimes disagreements can be challenging, right? I have disagreed with myself at times, and that has created so much tension that I've been in deep conflict with my own self at an inner level. Well, collectively, as a species engaged in the building and maintaining and propagating of a collective society with many different components, we've allowed ourselves to forget and neglect the importance of civil discourse, of building genuine, authentic, communal understanding and consensus on ideas. And I humbly present to you, dear friends, to kick off the new year, the suggestion that we can and could and should and maybe ought to all put a little bit of effort into righting our misalignment on that, right? There's this great analogy, and I forget the details of exact. It's a kind of a complex analogy, but I'll paraphrase it and make up my own analogy in the process, probably, because I'm never really great at quoting prolonged bits of text, but at least not off the top of my head. But you know how flocks of birds can flow and navigate and create swirling patterns, and you ever catch a really dynamic and energetic flock of, like, I think starlings do this a lot, but maybe I'm just pulling the first random bird name I could think of, but it gets used in movies sometimes, and it's often CGI, and it's usually represented as some sort of ominous omen. But if you strip all that association away and you think about it in natural, organic terms, these massive flocks of birds, and this is real, this does happen. And if somewhere in the back of your mind you're like, but what about that conspiracy theory that says that birds are not real? Stop, pause, jot that down, grab a big giant fat red pushpin and put it on the imaginary corkboard in the blank space over here. One of these days I'm actually going to put a corkboard there. So I might even be able to, just like the meme. And yes, I'm wearing a fancy top and pajama bottoms. And if you're judging me, that says more about you than it says about me. I just like the comfort. And I wasn't thinking about going all the way over here. Anyways, I digress. Put a pin in all of that. And right now what I'm going to do, friends, is we're going to take a little bit of a cleansing the palate musical break. This show is essentially going to sort of be the same format as the way I do the podcast, but more relaxed, because it's a different vibe and it's a different set of cultural norms in the live streaming world compared to podcast world. In podcast world, well, I'm not going to get into a prolonged and complicated analysis of the difference between one of those worlds and another. What I am going to do is take a brief break, give you a moment to go, what the fuck is he talking about? and also a moment to think about what kind of questions, thoughts, concerns, comments you want to drop so we can talk about them. I know that there's no overlay right now for the chat, but I can monitor that. And I know that there's no one in the chat right now, so I'm just kind of talking to the stream in an empty theater hall. It's sort of like I have this image of standing on a stage in a really big theater space and talking to no one. But I've done that. I've performed to literally nobody. And we did the show because the show must go on. And I guess those lessons apply here. Like I said, I'm going to take a quick break, leave you with a bit of music, and then we'll jumpstart and reboot this conversation in this chat. And then, of course, should any comments drop in to the chat while we're on this little auditory purge, of course, we'll kick off the second segment of this discussion with those. Thank you, dear friends, for standing by. The show will resume momentarily. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Let's go straight to here. Boom. Oh, that's the wrong thing too. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so. No, there we go. Welcome back, folks. Sorry for that silly awkwardness. I'm your host, the Almost Daily Zencast. No, that's not my name. I am your host, the Incorrigible MrZeppo, and welcome to this rough and tumble, real, raw, radically unscripted live stream conversational chit-chat talk show. I want to know what's on your minds, dear listeners. Now, I know the current events in this reality, for there are indeed many multiple realities, friends. It's not just a thing in the MCU. Put a pin in that, because A, I talk about it a lot on my podcast. B, we'll be talking about it a lot here vis-a-vis the MCU reference. So, live stream or Twitch and streaming here on this platform is primarily about live streaming video game content. I've been struggling with it philosophically for a hot second. As you may have noticed in an episode from not too long ago, but I'm choosing to accept the dichotomous awkwardness of being a self-proclaimed spiritual mystic and also loving technology and video games, despite the fact that in spiritual and mystical circles, people generally are inclined to be pro-nature and anti-entertainment technology. Now, those are broad, sweeping statements, and I'm not trying to paint with a monolithic brush. I'm not so naive as to think that any community, the spiritual community, a political party, etc., I'm not so naive as to believe blindly that any community is a monolith of any singular feature, facet, aspect, right? Now that may seem like a weird, ambiguous, and confusing statement to say. But for example, if someone were to say 100% of every single living member of your community, insert a community you belong to and that you care about, right? For the purposes of this mental exercise. For example, I am a theater nerd, right? Let's take that because it seems potentially free from triggering others. I don't know. I'm a theater nerd. I'm a theater technician. I love the technology side. I love the design side. I love the performance side. I have performed in various theaters, both in my home state and across this country, and in international venues. I'm not famous, but I'm also not bullshitting about having once been, because I don't know. I struggle with whether or not I should still self-identify as a member of the professional theater community, but put a pin in that because that's a whole nother conversation. As a former professional theater artist, because even the technicians, in my humble opinion, are artists. As a former theater performance technician and artist, it really chaps my hide when anyone makes a broad, monolithic, judgmental statement about theater. For example, 100% of all theater is evil and demonic and the work of Satan. Now, I know that might be a little weird to some people because it isn't super common. But since the days of the bard, actually, since the days of the ancient Greeks and Romans, there has been a contingent of people explicitly hating on theater, out to tear it down, out to ridicule it, minimize it, vilify it, and convince others that those who participate in it are less than, right? And of course, it's no longer as extreme as it once was. There have been historical periods in different ages and in different cultures where actors were considered the lowest of scum, where actors and those creating theater were considered criminals by default. In today's postmodern context, there's a lot of people out there making uninformed, broad stroke, sweeping, judgmental claims about anyone and everyone involved in the theater industry, which I can personally say are ridiculous and immature and not accurate based on my lived experience with over 20 years involvement in theater, right? If someone were to say to you in public that 100% of, insert your favorite community here that's important to you, right? 100% of it is foul, corrupt, evil, the work of Satan, or insert your favorite villain here, you would probably be a little upset, right? Perhaps a bit miffed, and perhaps very interested in taking a stand against such claims. You might take it personally. You might be able to keep it on the non-personal level. Those are, interesting but totally different things. But my point is, the more you are exposed Hold on. That's not the sense I was trying to construct. My point is, when a guy says all women are dumb, women circle up. I wish my camera had a broader, but anyways, women circle up and defend each other, right? Okay. Here's what I've observed. Now let's zoom out. Let's zoom out real quick, because I know I went from vague examples to specific examples. And of course, I don't mean to dismiss or disrespect the suffering of anyone that's been bullied or abused by those who cling to chauvinism as an ideological construct. But I'm trying to zoom out to a larger idea, right? Like this problematic pattern or trend of painting in a broad, monolithic brushstroke of all y'all are insert here that's something derogative. That's a kind of toxic behavior. Personally, I'm convinced, although I can't prove it, but I think that if you Hello! First chat participant of the show. GamerLab1. Is that what your name is? Yeah, GamerLab1. Hey, what are your podcasts usually about? They're actually about some of these kinds of things. I'll answer your question in just a second. Let me see if I can remember what I was trying to say and finish the thought. It is problematic to dismiss in a monolithic way an entire demographic of people. Why is it problematic? Because absolutist statements are rarely absolutely true. But they're presented to you as if they were absolutely, undeniably, 100% absolute truth. And that is some bullshit. That is some toxic, manipulative bullshit. So we must question and develop the mental, discipline of not falling for and not propagating absolutist statements. I know that was a really roundabout point that I was trying to make there, but it should be clear, right? Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. We got some comments coming in, and that is exciting, folks. Now, there's a bit of a delay. If you're an old-time streamer, you probably realize if you're checking this out because you know me on social media or whatever, and you're new, please don't think I'm ignoring you. It's just the chat's a little slow because it's bouncing around, and there's also some built-in delay. So, GamerLab1, what are my podcasts usually about? Let me pull up my the description for the podcast. And sorry for having to look away and have that look bad on the camera. I hate doing that. I need this to sort of sit right here, but there's no room for it. So then I can kind of use my eyes better, or a little bit less off camera. What am I looking for? All albums. I guess I don't have this here. Okay, never mind. The Almost Daily Zencast is a talk show style opinion show where I express my thoughts, concerns, critical thinking questions about current events, political ideology, social and cultural ideology, and how those things all intersect with each other, looking at it from a not nonpartisan, non-sectarian. It's for when you don't belong to any particular organized religion. There's a technical term for that. Perspective, right? Like I am a generic entheogenic spiritual mystic. I don't belong to any club. Although technically that's misleading because I am an ordained minister for the Universal Life Church online and for the online church for the Church of Latter-day Dudism. But those are both sort of parody spoof religions that do qualify as real religions, but that I don't. I hopefully you'll get it. I don't consider them my actual organized religions, but I do belong to them. Okay, so we've got a second comment here. I hope that somehow answered your question, GamerLab. My podcasts are a little bit about everything. They're unscripted. Sometimes I gather the woolly gathered thoughts in my head. Sometimes I jot things down. Sometimes I'm ripping headlines right off of the ether webs and riffing on it. It's like word jazz with electronic robot dance music. And both that show and this show need more audience engagement and participation. So super grateful for your question, GamerLab1. Second question of today's show, Linda McGillen. Going with your full real life first and last name. Bold choice. Not judging. I wouldn't do that. But not judging. Live on that edge. Okay, but here's your question from Linda. Some people who have no creativity are jealous of those with creativity. Pause right there. I don't know what the rest of the comment is, but let me let you in a little bit of secret that I learned the hard way in life. Everyone is a creator. Everyone can be creative. The real problem is our society has taken creativity, which is a big, broad, cosmic, epic thing, and shrunk it down to a little tiny piece of crap idea that's this big. Creativity is being marketable in our society, right? Nonsense. I think, in my humble opinion, based on 35 plus years of critical thinking, questioning, and seeking on multiple levels about multiple issues. Okay, so let's get back to your comment because it was a lot longer than that. Some people have no creativity and are jealous of those with creativity. If you are one of those, either Linda or anyone tuning into this show, please let go of that jealousy. Heal yourself of that jealousy. Forgive it. Forgive whoever you know that's creative, that's inspired that jealousy, and let it go. Because you can be creative. You might not be able to paint like Rembrandt. You might not write poetry like insert a famous poet here. I thought of someone, but their face came up, not their name. But you have creativity because the human being is here to create. More on that in a second. Put a pin on that because I've talked about that on my podcast a lot, and I'm sure I'll talk about it a lot more here too. Let's finish Linda's comment. So you're jealous, blah, 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 about who, people with creativity who dare to live a fun and creative life. Okay, yes, it takes daring. But also, it's not always fun. Sometimes it's grueling and difficult and challenging and overwhelming and riddled with doubt and fear. But yes, there's also fun and joy and bliss involved. So your next sentence reads, and oh my goodness, am I sick of hearing about the pedophiles running Hollywood? Okay, that's a big, huge, deep, multiple rabbit hole warren of rabbit holes, if I can make up an analogy. Yeah, I'm tired of hearing about them too. I've spent, I can't claim to be a movie star, right? But I've been on movie sets. I've been on television show sets. I'm not doing that anymore. And no, I never became famous or climbed up the ranks. But based on my lived experience, most of those claims are fear-mongering. Are pedophiles real? Of course. Does the Catholic Church, for example, have a really prominent and obvious issue? Of course. Is every priest in the Catholic Church an evil demon? I can't buy into that kind of thinking. And here's why. We'll talk about it in a hot second, but put a pin in that in the short term. We're going to come back to that right now. So yes, but also let's not be dismissive, right? I agree with you, Linda, but let's not also turn a blind eye where there might actually be real issues, right? Because nothing in this world, nothing I know that people reduce everything in this world to simple, one-dimensional yes, no polarities, right? Like, you're either with us or you're against us. Sounds really real. It's a load of fucking malarkey. Pardon my language. I don't know what the rules are about F-bombs, but that one slipped out. So one of the reasons that this and my other content are rated mature or explicit is because we deal with deep, serious ideas. And I am, as a real person, slightly given to a propensity to use salty language, right? But I do not use curse words with hate or anger. Sidebar. Okay, back to the. Oh, thank you, Linda McGillen, for more comments. Let's finish up these comments here. Again, people who can't conceive of making a lot of money in a creative field think that it has to be made in an evil way. Like, what about vision and hard work and talent? Yes. There's a balance of things, right? Let me make a simple example. Is any single human being, and I'm asking this question to the broad audience, anyone watching this, have you ever met a single human being that is completely, absolutely, 100% free of flaws? Now, of course, your grandma or your papa, you probably love and adore them, and they could do no wrong in your eyes. But how well do you know them? You don't know the intimate details of the entire 2 lives they led before they gave birth to your parents, and then before your parents gave birth to you. So it's one of the hardest pills to swallow in our society because we don't talk about it, we don't deal with it, and we don't address it. We don't know each other well. And worse, we don't know how to get to know each other well. So stuff like this happens, that what Linda's calling out, right? People who don't know any performance artists of any kind come across a conspiracy theory that makes plausible, believable, but arguably not necessarily 100% true claims in an absolutist way, and then they hear that echoed around them because everything is an echo chamber. Good, bad, indifferent. The way we do things, everything we do makes an echo chamber. Put a pin in that, right over there. I'm getting used to the dyslexia bit. We'll come back and talk about echo chambers and how they work and how they aren't 100% absolutely evil. Okay, so Linda McGillen continuing with more insightful comments. But not everyone goes for it. Yes, you are right, she says, and when we all create meals, chores, building, etc., and have babies. True. And anything can be creativity. Back to the creativity topic, right? Let's set all the conspiracy theory stuff aside with this caveat. I don't want anyone to misunderstand, especially since I know I'm currently restreaming this to Facebook. And so Facebook acquaintances might be tuning in now or in the future. I have never, in any of my public discourse, claimed that there is no corruption. I've never made the naive assertion that all conspiracy theory content is 100% fake. I've always advocated for conspiracy theory enthusiasts to take a big step back and a very deep breath and think about and question the content. Now put a pin in that over there because we're going to come back and talk about that some more. Like Linda points out in her second comment, there's all kinds of creativity, right? The most fundamental of which is making life. Now, I'm not the kind of person that puts everything on pedestals, right? I think there's balance. We're always trying to balance things. The moment we start putting things on a pedestal and they are so high that we can't reach them, where's the balance? But making life, arguably, is one of the top tier or top shelf important things that we can do. And we don't honor it and respect it, nor do we understand it very well. So that's one thing right there. That's the most profound kind of art, in my opinion. Now, does that mean that every person needs to commit to making a baby? Of course not. We don't take something beautiful and elevate it so high that it becomes a tyrant. What's up, Gamer Lab? Thanks for following. Woo! Right? Let me repeat that last statement. We should never take anything, good, bad, indifferent, and elevate it so high in our minds, put it in a mental pedestal that it becomes so superior to us that it becomes a form of tyranny. And that happens, folks, because ideas don't just exist here in the squishy goo in the middle of your skull. Put a pin in that, because we're going to talk about that somewhere. Oh, of course, yeah. So Linda McGillen's last comment there when we were talking about Hollywood and stuff is that she knows that there's a piece of power and things happen, just not in Hollywood, right? So my critique is about absolutist thinking. And it was something I wanted to talk about in depth. And I'm so glad that Linda McGillen brought some of those things in. Let's take a little quick step back here. Good versus evil, right? It's a big, huge theme in the world, right? It resonates here with this Hollywood issue. And with conspiracy theory content in general. Good versus evil, no matter the context, whether it's a conspiracy theory about government or a religious dogma from one organized religion judging others and everything in between, right? It's always used in such a fashion that it creates conflict and herds people towards that divide. No human being, no human endeavor is ever a monolith of anything. Good and evil as ideas and as concepts do not accurately represent the things in reality that they are sort of pretending to stand for. Where do we go from that? We really went into a strange direction. But creativity and these interconnected series of issues can seem so powerfully important to people that they allow themselves to project onto others. Now, a little bit of projection is somewhat necessary because it's sort of how we perceive and co-create reality. But put a pin in that idea over here on the giant, massive corkboard of all the things we need to talk about. But as with most tools, they themselves are sort of neutral and indifferent. A projection as a thing that exists is technically neutral. We have baggaged it, we've burdened it with a lot of negative connotation because when someone makes an assumption in their head and then projects it onto you and it's wrong, it's annoying AF, right? But I just want to point out that there's also counterbalancing that. Like any tool, it can be used for good. And we project all the time. We project individually and we project collectively. Now, without getting lost in a big discussion about projection and how it works, let's zoom back to the issue of monolithic thinking, good versus evil, and the real issues about corruption and oppression and etc., right? There's definitely, like, I'm not denying that there is problematic issues, especially in the upper echelons of society where power concentrates because that's where all the money goes. But the moment that I start hyper vilifying those people in those upper echelons of society because of content that has laid out a persuasive and seductive argument which has convinced me that they are unworthy, that they are beneath me, that they are absolute monoliths of evil, I've been manipulated. I've been fooled and tricked into doing one thing that no one ever wants to believe they are doing, which is becoming the villain that you're angry at, right? No one wants to think that they're going to become the thing that they're calling out. But what is it that villains do? I put a pin in this. I've talked about it on my podcast, and I'm not going to go and ramble on about it as long as I probably did on that episode of my podcast. But what do villains do? In short, they objectify and dehumanize other people for the purposes of abusing them. Right? So, what becomes of us, the supposed good guys, when we start sliding down the slippery slope of judging others, projecting incorrect assumptions on them, and grounding all of that, basing all of those actions in unfair monolithic thinking, right? We become villains. If villains are evil because they objectify humans in order to abuse them for profit, why does your political party want you to objectify the other political party and treat them all as unworthy and beneath you? I ask that of everyone who is clinging to a political ideology and currently angry at anyone in any other party that is the opposition. As a species, we invented a mental ideological construct called politics. And we gave it power. And we elevated it so high on a pedestal that it is becoming tyranny. Now, it isn't the Democrats that are tyrannical and are trying to ruin America. It isn't the Republicans that are only exclusively 100% purely evil. And it isn't the third party's fault either. This is a human species issue. This is a perception issue. Put a pin in that, though, because there's a really great quote, and I don't have it in front of me. Lyndon McGillen, dang, 3 exclamation points. You need a big, big platform to become a voice for now. Well, I humbly thank you for that supportive compliment. You want to help me get that big, big platform? Hit subscribe. Visit Solo.to /MrZeppo. Check out my podcast. Follow it there. And share the episodes that speak to you on your social medias and help me garner a wider audience. And while we're on that subject, really quick, let me be really clear about something. Since this is sort of a new chapter, right? I have to sort of remember that new viewers are going to come to this show and have zero context from my podcast or any of my other projects. So let me make some declarative statements here. And in the coming days and weeks as we launch this show and try to get a bigger, broader audience. I am not here rambling about the things I've been thinking about and questioning and experimenting with and testing and exploring and seeking about for the last 30 plus years so that you will blindly agree with me. No, thank you. I am not here to tell anyone what to believe. I am here to engage in that public discourse as we described at the top of the show, right? And to invite people from all walks of life, from all ilks, from all locations around this country and all others to join me in simple exercise of setting down our political ideologies. I'm not going to tell you you're evil and wrong because you're a Democrat, or you're evil and wrong because you're a Republican. The Democrats and Republicans are too busy, have been busy doing that my entire conscious life in this country. And I've been here for a while. And it's not a Democrat versus Republican issue, right? It's an engineered wedge issue. It isn't a problem that, I mean, it is problematic that the Democrats and the Republicans are trapped in this double barrel echo chamber of you are the evil ones, you are the evil ones, and just screaming past each other. Of course, that's problematic, but that's not the real problem. Anyways, thank you, Linda McGillen. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. As well as, what was the other? Gamer Lab 1. Thanks for the follow. Hit that follow button, friends, and visit the Solo.to. And then, subscribe to all the other social medias. I'm not on some of them very much. If I had to be really blunt, if you really want to engage, I mean, like, Facebook is almost permanently open on my phone. And I don't endorse that. Like, you need time away from your devices, right? But I'm on a mission. I'm on a project to engage in this public discourse, identify and be identified by like-minded individuals that also have thoughts that I can't anticipate or expect, and also not like-minded individuals. I want to have genuine, respectful, and serious public discourse with folks who disagree with me. So if you know people like that, encourage them to come troll me. If you know some trolls that love to troll people, send them my Livestream link, please. Not because I'm going to celebrate their trolling me, but because I love to have conversations with people and hopefully figure out my way past their trolly defenses to ask them questions that they're hopefully gonna be stuck thinking about, right? I digress. Time for another brief musical interlude. And I need a different screen. I haven't created this setup yet, but we're going to have a cool, visually stimulating, interesting screen with maybe images of DJ Zed, the character, and or videos on rotation as the music plays. And if you're really confused by DJ Zed, don't stress. I have explained that relationship and who and what he is in my podcast, and of course I'll be explaining it here as well. But for your audio entertainment pleasure, here is a quick break into some music. This track is Calling Darkness into the Night, a DJ Zed pure drill digital remix live performance. Enjoy, and I'll be right back. And we're back with another segment of the Almost Daily Login, a live, unscripted, live stream chat show. I need to nail that intro blurb. But you get it. Here we are. I'm your host, the Incorrigible MrZeppo, and this is the Almost Daily Login logo. I humbly thank you for tuning in and for your support in spreading your support in spreading the word about this project and my other projects too. So some of you who are tuning in now or watching this particular episode for the first time may be confused about all of it, and I apologize. Let me see if I can share a little bit of context about what I'm doing. So over at Solo.to /MrZeppo, and forgive me for sounding so self-promotional, but there's real interconnectedness in the work going on in all the different projects that you can see links for on that Solo.to /MrZeppo link menu. At the center of it is the link entitled Welcome to the Zeppoverse, a Tourist Guide. If you've never heard of Wattpad is a little bit like Facebook, or even if you think about it, Twitch, but for books and for authors and people who want to read books by undiscovered authors. That's where I'll be taking you guys in future episodes of this show to work on my literary projects live in stream. I talked about this in an episode a while back when I was doing the tests, and those aren't up on the Twitch shelf anymore because for right now, my videos only last for 16 days. So please do support the channel and try to watch videos if you haven't caught them yet over there on the shelf. But a long time ago, when I was involved in a small but passionate and really talented storefront community theater company, the name of which is irrelevant, but I digress. They were in a cute storefront in a downtown pedestrian-friendly shopping district, and they had this great sort of bookcasey window display space at the front. And I desperately, I had this idea. I desperately wanted to get permission from the theater company to hang out in the theater inside of that window box, facing out into the audience, and making a sort of clown in a glass box pantomime show about writing a play. I never got to do it, tragically. And that idea is like lived in my head and haunted me for however many years since. And it finally hit me. The shoe finally dropped, just like a ton of bricks on my head. Oh, I can do that here on Twitch, kind of, in a virtual sort of online kind of way. So brace yourselves for that. There's going to be streams where I work on my novels, streams where I work on my digital art, some of which will be incorporated into the body of work that is called the Zeppoverse, which is going to be fiction, but inspired very much by true life events. And the nexus that connects it all is that the podcast, both iterations, the audio-only version of the podcast on Sprecher and the video and audio version of the podcast here on Twitch, they are MacGuffins in my works of fiction. They are artifacts, as I like to call them, meta artifacts, that exist inside of the literary world I'm creating for reasons that I don't want to spoiler away just now. So let me assure you, when I'm speaking to you here or on the podcast, I'm speaking to you with my most transparent authenticity. I'm not pretending to be something I'm not, and I'm not reading scripts that someone else is telling me to read from. I'm really truly trying to share with you, dear audience, and the world at large, a sort of open letter. Like, my content at all, if you take it all together, is in my mind a sort of romantic open letter to humanity. So there's that. But my image is the image that will be the so in other words, there's a character in the books that I'm writing that will be inspired by and loosely based on me and my actual image. Although we can get into weird, creepy details about that another time, because it's all out of context, right? You have no idea what I'm talking about. The Incorrigible MrZeppo is a character in a book series that I am writing. And that character lives in a comic book reality timeline that's way over the top and right on that edge of science fiction-y, in which, and it's a timeline, it's a futuristic, closer to true dystopia timeline than our own, right? Than this real world timeline that we in. But some of the events and characters in that near dystopian futuristic timeline that I'm world building are truly and immediately directly inspired by real life things going on, and that have been going on for the last 45, 50 years. Okay, so that's a balancing act, but hopefully you'll join me in exploring that work. Now, for some people, that sounds tedious, but for other people who are really into streaming streams, that might be super engaging. And for me, the point is to sort of collect an overlapping array of different audiences, right? Like, it's okay if you prefer to just listen to the podcast. That's fine. Just listen to the podcast. It's okay if you'd rather just watch the live stream show here on Twitch. That's fine. Thanks for joining. It's okay if you don't want to watch the video talk show, but you do like to watch the game streaming, right? Or if you just want to read the books, or if you just want to appreciate the graphic art. But all of those ingredients are going to be part of one interwoven workflow. And hopefully sharing about it on these streams won't be so tedious and boring that y'all will ignore it. And so I humbly invite you to tune in for more in the not too distant future. And I thank you so much for tuning into this episode today, which is officially the hard open. The talk show podcast chat episodes I did in Q4 of last year were rehearsals, right? It was a soft opening. We were still in dress rehearsals. Now this is it. This is the opening night of the show, and I humbly thank you for tuning in. And I'm really grateful for the follows and for the comments. Thanks for all of that. Now I'm going to be switching gears, and this is something I can't do seamlessly, tragically, at least not yet, because of limitations with the equipment that I'm using, right? I can't just be like, here's some music, and then when I come back, boom, drop you into live game streaming. I literally have to end the stream, disconnect, and and reconfigure some of the things for dumb, silly technical reasons. Which is why, as much as I hate panhandling on the internet, which is why I'm humbly asking you to consider, if it's in your capacity to visit streamelements.com/MrZeppo/tip. If you didn't write that down or you think about it later and you don't remember what it's called, just go to Solo.to/MrZeppo. That's a lot easier to remember. And the fundraiser link is the very first link on the menu. Now, there's a lot of people out there that officially and without a doubt need charitable support way more than I do. I'm not crazy. I'm not naive. And although I've been accused of those things a lot, I genuinely don't think that I'm blinded to the reality that there are lots of people suffering. In fact, one of the things that I do on my podcast, kind of sporadically but consistently in an inconsistent way, is to have a moment of silence for people suffering in this world, because there's a lot of them. And people like myself, people like you and I, we are lucky and blessed to be in the positions that we are, even if those are stressful and chaotic and full of pain and suffering, right? Because I can assure you of this: all souls are suffering. It's easy to imagine that very wealthy people couldn't possibly be suffering because they're wealthy. Nonsense. They're just suffering in a different way, in a different order of magnitude, right? But I digress. I'm suffering, and I'm actually facing a lot of uncertainty. The gig work, the theater work that I used to rely on to survive and live very humbly, well, for a bunch of different reasons, for a bunch of different circumstantial things that could not be avoided, currently not available to me. I'm not going to be able to go back to work in a theater anytime soon. Although I see, obviously, that the theater industry is doing its best to open its doors and get the audiences back in there. And if you're a theater nerd working out there in the world, I'm happy and proud for you. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that, like, unfortunately, a certain percentage of the shows in my family of theater social circles, I noticed that they had to close down for the holidays because of the current holiday spike. Shouldn't be a big surprise there, but also it's a tragic thing, and my heart goes out to all of you. If your theater company had to cancel or postpone a production you were involved in, especially if that puts you in financial jeopardy. So full disclosure, folks, I have not worked since the pandemic began, and I have not taken unemployment. And I have also not focused on my content creation and my podcast and this stream as hardcore as I could have. That's on me, right? I was torn between wanting to believe that we as a collective would get our shit together and deal with the realities as they actually are, dispense with the disinformation, the misinformation, the down and out, full-blown lies, and conspiracy theory content. Yep, I can pronounce words. We set all that aside and deal with reality as it actually presents itself. Put a pin in that whole cloud of subject matter, because I've got a bunch of episodes you're going to want to listen to over on Sprecher.com/show/Zeppo. Sorry, that's a lie. I've changed it a few times. Sprecher.com/ just go to Solo. It's there. It's Zencast. Right. Anyways. And I'm sure we'll come back and talk about that subject here too. But to come full circle, I lost my train of thought completely, and that happens. It's perfectly normal. I've always been like this in my life. Oh, I know, some programming notes. Boom. Something I meant to talk about at the beginning of the stream, but now I guess here we are at the end of the stream. We're going to start talking about now. A shout out to all the talented disc jockeys out there on Twitch TV land. I'm a huge fan. This fool backed out of getting trained on how to be a DJ back in the day when I knew some kids that were into it and they would have helped me like pick up the skills. I'm fascinated by it and I've always liked it, so I admire all you DJs out there DJing on Twitch. Special request, and I don't know how possible this is, and I don't know if there's like prohibitions for this in the Twitch and user agreement, end user license agreement. That's right. I knew there was something on the EULA, the EULA for Twitch. I don't know if there's barriers to this, but for when I'm streaming video games, I would love to team up and feature DJs from Twitch, famous ones and not famous ones with huge communities and ones just starting out, as a sort of co-host to the game stream, Twitch and the music, right, into my podcast, so that we can do a little crossover work. I don't know if that sounds boring or if that sounds interesting to people, but if you're a musician or a DJ or whatever and you're watching this right now and you're like, I don't know, maybe, or totally, fuck yeah, drop me a message. What I'd love to be able to do is when I'm, let's say, playing a battle royale game, I'd love to have a second, player monitor thing either right above me or right below me here in this corner or on the other end of the screen over there with a DJ like, breaking it down and bringing in some groovy beats. But dreams, hopes and aspirations. If you're tuning in and listening to this show and you are down, hit me up. Send me a DM. Okay, so no disrespect to DJ Zed, my fictional character. But we'll talk about that more in a future episode. I'm running out of steam because for some reason doing a live stream on video is slightly more exhausting than doing an audio podcast. I think it's because I've actually got to focus on where I'm looking at and how I'm articulating myself and how I'm gesticulating. It's much more like performing stand-up than talking on the radio. But anyways, it's also just my first episode, and I'm super grateful for the chat engagement from earlier. Thank you guys for dropping in, saying hi, and asking a few questions. And I kind of want to end on a high note and not sit around going, oh, no one else wants to chat. But I'll be back more consistently, more often, coming at you a little bit more daily and a little bit less almost. This has been the Almost Daily Login variety live stream chat podcast show. I've been your humble host, the Incorrigible MrZeppo, and the music has been brought to you by DJ Zed, my literarily real fictional. I have an eerie resemblance to Weird Al Yankovic, says my real life sibling, and that's hilarious. Thanks, bro, for dropping in, saying hi. Also, I'm okay with that. I would love to meet Weird Al Yankovic. Yeah, the show's over, bro. Well, at least I was just about to wrap things up. This is sort of the debut first episode. So, I mean, if you're like, oh, bummed out, you're leaving, you're closing up, all you gotta do is just wait a hot second and then just watch it from the beginning again. I would actually really appreciate that because it would count for my analytics. So, yeah. There's a really the show got really going for a minute there in the middle. But my vocal cords are getting a little stressed out. Anyone who listens to the podcast knows that I struggle with not doing all of the proper and correct vocal warm-ups that I know how to do before rambling at an invisible audience for 45 minutes to an hour or two. So I need to get better at that and pay closer attention to my vocal cords needs, or else I will lose my voice and then I won't be able to do jack shit. At any rate, thanks for tuning in. It was awesome and hilarious to see you right at the last second, my dear real-life sibling. Bro Jams, just hang a second and watch the show from the beginning again because I would appreciate that support. Awesome, dude. Also, to answer your question from before on whenever you sent me that message about what's my favorite thing where you can send me a thing, you can just send it here. Okay. Right. Namaste. Thank you for tuning in. Please do share, subscribe, hit the follow button, visit all the things, and enjoy this closing bit of music, which I can't see the title of right now, but I'll read to you in just a second. It has been an honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you soon and engaging with more questions and comments and stuff. And by the way, if you're an avid listener of the Almost Daily Zencast, and you happen to be here watching the Almost Daily Login, you're more than welcome to make crossover commentary and questions. I think it'll be hilarious and awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. May peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart. And quick, real world. I was only like, it was 2 years ago that I learned this. So I was however many years old I was when I figured that out. I'm gonna put it over here so it's easier to see. This, historically, ancient mystically speaking, is not a peace sign. This is victory for war. And the only way to be victorious is to divide. Right? So stop flashing this peace sign and start flashing this peace sign. Because this is the true ancient, mystic, original, spiritually powerful sign for unity. See how the fingers are together? And even if you look at the whole hand, everyone's like doing it together. May peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart. Thanks for tuning in, and I will be back again shortly. And that's right, folks. Your comments and questions, concerns, thoughts, positive, negative, or indifferent, are always welcome. Ciao, my friend and brother. Thanks for dropping by. And thanks to everybody here on Twitch who's been all the support on past live game streaming has been fun and awesome. And brace yourselves for more, because I was kind of spotty and inconsistent last year, and then I took a lot of time off for the holidays, but we're going to be back at it with lots of gaming, because this is a gaming platform as well as a podcasting platform. This live stream has been a production of C-Tag Studio, a totally imaginary production studio that exists entirely in the figment of my imagination. And I almost forgot, but happy 420. Be safe, be responsible, and know your cannabis laws in your jurisdiction. And never forget or stop telling people, reminding people that cannabis heals.